Hey guys!
Magnus Robert here, bringing you the part 2 for my Simpsons Family tree. So, someone did comment that I forgot someone last episode, and I'm not too sure exactly who that person is. I'm just clicking on my video right now. But someone said I forgot a Simpson, and I forgot some guy called Thanos. Thanos told me I forgot a Simpson. Maybe he wiped him out. But, I'm not sure if it was a canon Simpson or not, but or one mentioned in the show. So do please tell me, Thanos, if you're watching this video, which Simpson did I miss? Anyway, shall we get back into it? So where we left off is we went through all of Homer's family. So we went through all the kids as well. So I feel like it's a good point now to go into Marge's family. And yeah, I think we'll just go all the way up to her tree. So here's Marge, of course, and we're just going to go all the way to the top. So, yeah, now, this is a weird one. So, with her great-grandparents, so obviously we have her grandparents here, but with her great-grandparents, a few are mentioned, most are from the book. Now, this is stuff that I have taken from the book, but the thing is, Marge's family is consistent, whilst Homer's isn't. So I feel like I can take a lot of liberties with the book, a lot more than with Homer's family, because Homer's family is a bit different, because obviously the show kind of disproves the book. So these characters up here are from the books, but the only reason I did them is so I could connect one particular character who you'll see in a sec. So you have Antony Bouvier, and you have Francios, or whatever the heck that is, Billout, Thomas Gurney, and Ingrid Woods. So these are her maternal grandparents, Thomas Gurney and or her maternal great-grandparents, sorry. Yeah, Thomas Gurney and Ingrid Woods, and her paternal ones are obviously Antony and Francois Billout. And so the thing with this is that I had to put them in because I need to connect Eunice Bouvier. Now, Eunice Bouvier is difficult. This is the most difficult character I found to place in this tree. Because she is described as Marge's great half step aunt, and the two contradict each other because you can't have a half aunt and a step aunt. Like, it just doesn't make sense. But I guess it is technically plausible with what I've done here. So Eunice is actually the child of Antony Bouvier and Ingrid Woods, so her Marge's maternal grandmother and her paternal grandfather, therefore making her half aunt. But also, Ingrid is of course married to Thomas Woods, and maybe Thomas Gurney. So maybe Ingrid was after. Thomas was married to what's his name, Ingrid, or whatever. After Thomas was married to whoever, I'm already got confused with this. So, so Thomas married Ingrid. Married Antony. So Antony and Ingrid had Eunice, and then sometime they got divorced. And Ingrid married Thomas Gurney and had Ferdinand Gurney. So, yeah, this way, obviously, Ingrid married Thomas. Damn it. So, Eunice is Antony's daughter, and Ingrid Woods' daughter. I hope you can understand what I've done there. I know I've kind of messed it up, bullsed up a little bit. It's really hard to explain, but Eunice was really difficult to fit in, but I think this works. She is both their step-aunt and their great-aunt in this thing, so I guess it makes sense that she would be, to describe her as a great half-step-aunt. Although the whole thing was pretty much just a gag, I think, was just a joke. But anyway, seeing as we've gone through the maternal, I think we will just go through the maternal line, starting with Ferdinand and Alvarine Bisque. Yeah, so Ferdinand Gurney, of course, married Alvarine Bisque, and they actually had 3 children. Now, Lou Gurney is mentioned in the show, so I thought I'd include him. I think there are some others by the book, but like I said, I don't really want to rely on the book. I don't want to include too many of the book's people. But the other two actually seen people is, of course, Gladys Gurney, who does actually die in the show, and they obviously inherit her stuff. And of course, Jacqueline Gurney is the main child of Alvarine. So there isn't any connections between Gladys and Lou. There's no one else really we can talk about from their line, but we can talk about her children. So Jacqueline Gurney, of course, had Marge Bouvier, Patricia Bouvier, and Selma Bouvier. Of course, Selma later adopted Ling Bouvier. Obviously, this is an adoption. It's not her biological child. And there is, of course, Patricia Bouvier, who is just wildly connected to things. But anyway, we're going to go back up the tree and look at Marge's paternal line. So, starting with, before we get into the wildness of Selma's husbands, so let's go through Patricia's paternal line. So, of course, and Marge's and Selma's paternal line. So, of course, their father is Clancy Bouvier, who is also dead. He died of lung cancer. It was actually kind of long, sort of unknown how he died, but then I think they've only recently confirmed he died of lung cancer due to his smoking. So Clancy Bouvier, his parents are Pepe Bouvier and Bambi Petitbois, and of course Pepe Bouvier, his grandparents were Antony and Francois. So going back down, Pepe and Bambi had 3 children. So of course Clancy was one of them, but they also had Arthur Bouvier, who is of course mentioned, Chester Bouvier, who married Alfreda LeDeoux, and they had Dottie Bouvier. Now the reason I've included these characters is because Dottie, in the episode where Selma marries such a Bob, it's revealed that Dottie, one of the wedding gifts, is from Dottie Bouvier. So that confirms that Dottie Bouvier is, of course, a canon sort of character in the show. And the weird thing about Dottie Bouvier is they mention her as a cousin. But Dottie is actually in the books. So this is like one of the only times the show and that book cross-reference, apart from like Old Tut as well. Old Tut is also a sort of cross-reference. Old Tut Simpson. But yeah, Dottie Bouvier was in the book. I think she was in the books first. Actually, no, I think it was after. But anyway, Dottie Bouvier is, confirmed in the show. Therefore, I think that's strong evidence to suggest that Chester Bouvier and Alfreda de LeDeoux, or however the hell you say that, are also canon characters. I think that sort of confirms it. And then Arthur Bouvier is mentioned as either a brother or a uncle that they don't talk about. Now, I feel like an uncle makes more sense because I think we would know if Marge had a brother. I feel like that would be, I don't know, I just feel like that would make sense to me, that she, if it was a brother. So I think Arthur is probably Marge's uncle. Although it's plausible that she is her brother. Now, of course, going back down to Clancy, 3 children, Marge, Patricia, and Selma. So Patricia doesn't really have anything to go off. She hasn't really married or had any children, so she kind of just her line sort of ends there. But where it does go off is through Selma. So let's have a look at Selma's husbands. So first of all, I'm not sure the exact order she marries these people. But I do know that, I think anyway, it's both Disco Stew, Lionel Hutz, and Disco Stew and Lionel Hutz are they're mentioned. So I think it was either one of these two first. So Stuart Discoffy, Disco the Q, or whatever the hell, how the hell you say his second name, and Lionel Hutz. So I think one of these two men was the first one she married, and then. But obviously I don't think those marriages appear in the show, they're just mentioned. So the first sort of seen marriage is with Robert Underdunk Terwilliger. So Robert Underdunk Terwilliger is, obviously this branches into his family tree. So his parents are Robert Senior Terwilliger. Obviously Robert Underdunk is actually Robert Junior. So Robert Senior, Dr. Robert Senior Terwilliger, and his wife Judith Underdunk. So that's why Sideshow Bob's name is Robert Underdunk, Robert Junior Underdunk. No, Robert Underdunk Terwilliger Junior or something like that. I think that's what it is. That's his full name. It's because he took his mother's maiden name as his middle name. Also, they had another child called Cecil Terwilliger. So, of course, Cecil is Robert's or Sideshow Bob's brother. So, of course, Sideshow Bob married Selma, but sometime after he married Selma, he married Francesca Terwilliger. We don't know her maiden name. And her and Bob both had a child called Gino Terwilliger, who obviously is seen here. So that's sort of Sideshow Bob's area. So going back to Selma, she is our connecting piece for a lot of these characters. We go to the next one she marries anyway is, of course, Abraham J. Simpson. We've gone through him. Obviously, we've gone through those connections and we've gone through his family. So I don't need to go into depth about that, but that's the one she married next. And then she married Fit Fat Antonio. Or Fit Fat Tony Antonio. So Tony Antonio is... of course, the second version of Fat Tony. He's not the first. And he later becomes Fat Tony. So his actual sort of, like, we know his name is Tony. He does share the name with his cousin, but his surname is actually unconfirmed in the show. But he does. It is mentioned his father is a man called Fatso Antonio. So if his father was called Fatso Antonio, then surely his surname would be Antonio. And this is kind of weird because Fat Tony's sort of name is Marion Antonio, if we look at it. His name is Marion Antonio DeMacchio. So it sort of implies... Oh, that's meant to be Antonio, not Antony. But it sort of implies that, obviously, Antonio is like a middle name, right? So... From that, I feel like it's the same thing with Sideshow Bob, where he's taken his mother's maiden name as his sort of middle name. Therefore, I think that these people up here, these guys up here, are actually the sort of the Tony's sort of cousinage, if you will, is actually... through his mother's side and not his father's side. So Fatso's obviously Fit Fat Tony's father. So he had two parents who are here. We obviously don't know their names. And they also had Mrs. Antonio and Mr. DeMacchio. And Mrs. Antonio and Mr. DeMacchio, these two being, of course, the original Fat Tony's parents. They, of course, had the original Fat Tony. Now, the original Fat Tony, of course, married Anne Marie DeMacchio. He was dead on the show. And... also, they had Michael DeMacchio. Fatso Antonio, there is another unnamed Antonio, which we don't know about. I think it's mentioned that he has a brother, so that's why I think that's the... Oh, no, it isn't. Oh, okay, I see why I've done here. But anyway, go back to Fifth Antonio. He later remarries Angela Antonio, who is here, or I think, was that after or before, actually? I'm not sure, but he marries Angela Antonio, who is this lady here. We don't know her maiden name. But he also has several nephews. So it must imply that he either has a brother or a sister. These guys' surnames aren't really known, so we can't actually find out. We can't imply whether or not these guys are on. These are his sister's children or a brother's children. But basically, Fit Fat Antonio, the second Fat Tony, has a brother or sister who had 4 children. That being Stevie B, Stevie F, Tushy, and Vincent, who, of course, these Jersey Shore kind of spoof characters. And that actually ends all I've got so far in the tree. So yeah, that is actually the whole tree as a whole. Believe it or not, that is all that I've got down here. That is all the sort of canon connections I can make between the Simpsons and their extended family that has been shown in the show, apart from that one that I apparently missed. If it's one of the sort of background Simpsons that appear in that one episode, the Lisa the Simpson episode, where there's all of them, if it's one of them, I'm probably not... I mean, I will add it if you, if Thanos tells me exactly what it is, and I'll try and fit it in if it's one of them. But if it's actually a significant one, I don't know how I've missed that, because I, scoured through it for ages trying to find every little one. So we'll have to see. If it's Hugo, I'll be mad, because I don't want no Hugo. Hugo is not canon in any way. I mean, I know I had the future stuff, but the future stuff is it's consistent in some future episodes, so I feel like I can justly put that in. But yeah, that is actually the entire tree. So tell me if you guys want this. Leave it in the comments, but tell me, do you want to see a part 3? And what we'll do in part 3 is, I've got a few ideas. One of them being, what if Marge married Mo? What if Marge married Mo? What if Jacqueline Bouvier, which is obviously Marge's mother here, what if she married Mr. Burns? So we can go through Mr. Burns' stuff. I want to do a what if Lisa marries Nelson in the future, so we can go through Nelson's sort of family tree. Yeah, I think there was another one. I can't remember exactly what it was. And maybe Homer as well. We could do a Homer one. What if Homer married certain women? Or possibly we can go through girlfriends, and we can include the girlfriends as sort of wives, and then go through all their sort of family. I mean, that's what I was sort of doing anyway. I know that I don't think Marge and Mo have ever dated really, but I could go through that. That could be interesting. Same with Bart. Obviously, go through all of his sort of girlfriends. Jessica Lovejoy being one of them, of course. Go through the Lovejoy family. I'm just want to find a way where I can connect all the families, all the different sort of Simpsons families, and that way we can go through every single character maybe in the show, or a lot of the characters in the show. Krusty's a big one as well, because Krusty's family connects with Sideshow Mills' family, so that could possibly be interesting. Maybe what if Krusty and Sideshow Bob are brothers? I don't know, something like that. But yeah, there's a lot of potential here. I do want to go through different things. So leave any suggestions. Tell me if you want to see a part 3. And then leave any suggestions for like sort of possible what-if scenarios where we could go through some other characters. But that is the whole Simpsons tree. I may do a sort of not like a full canon part, like another part, if they're to add a significant amount of other Simpsons. If they do, we'll obviously like add, I don't know, like they add... Marge's brother or something, or like maybe it's revealed that Marge's Arthur Bouvier is actually Marge's brother, and they do a whole episode on it. If they hypothetically did that, for example, then I would change Arthur and highlight it in a video, whatever video I did. Or if they add like, I don't know, they say they add who knows, they show Ferdinand, then I can maybe go through him, or I don't know. If they were to add characters, basically, I will probably, do them in the next part I do. But anyway, that is it. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Tell me your thoughts on part 2. Yeah, and I shall see you next one. Goodbye.